Hi there, I'm going to do that thing I promised I'd do in my last video where I'm going to talk about perception, or as I like to call it, how to spot a shit GM from a mile away. So here's the thing, the perception test. It's a staple of role-playing games. From old school gaming all the way through, I mean, that random chance to see something in the scene is just something that's become so symptomatic of role-playing games, ubiquitous even. It's just something that is part of the game. But it should not be. Here's my argument. According to the rules on, and I'm going to use Dungeons and Dragons as an example. I don't have a character sheet to hand for that particular game, but it's present in other games too. This is a corporation character sheet, so you have a stat called perception, and you have a skill called observation. The amount of times I've rolled those two together. No. According to 5th edition rules, let's go. D&D 5e is my example system for my arguments against perception tests. When you make a perception test, or when the player is actively searching, so if I'm actively looking in a location, I make a perception test for a chance to find something. So, okay, there are some characters that might be more likely to spot something than others. Maybe that's the thing. I would argue if I'm searching something, it's passive, there's no time constraints, there's no one, if I'm in the middle of a fight and there's a chance to see something that might give me an opportunity to defeat a monster, do I see it that turn or the next turn? Maybe a perception, I don't know, maybe. But under normal, I'm searching a room. If I've searched the room, then I've searched the damned room. How many things are in here? Tell you what, I'll do that with a different enunciation of the word room, just so you understand. I've searched the room. My partner always picks me up for the way I say room, because I'm from the south, and he's from a little island community where they're all inbred. Shit, I've recorded that and it's going... Anyway, doesn't matter. Right, so that's what you're meant to do. If I make an active attempt to search the room, then I make a perception test. That's the 5e rule. If I'm not actively searching, then it's done against my passive perception. Now, if it's a case of, quite often, GM wants to, asks the group to roll a perception test. What that basically means is, so let's say I'm looking for the bottle opener, and we've all been in that situation where, we're looking for usually door keys, but actually no, where mine are. I've just seen them. No, I'm looking for a bottle opener in this room, right? Do I see it when I look around the room? Well, there is a chance I might miss and end up searching other rooms in the house, but ultimately, if I need a bottle opener, I will always find it. Well, just dropping things and making loud noises on camera, apparently for no reason. So, what was my original point here? Yes, according to the D&D concept of perception, because it's testing against my passive abilities, this has got to make a stealth roll. That determines its chance of detection. Now, no GM would ever make a bottle opener roll a stealth check. What they would do is they would determine a difficulty for finding the bottle opener and compare that to passive perception, which means the same character is always going to be the one finding stuff. So that's a rubbish solution too. Now, D&D has this other system, a group test. So we could use that mechanism. So now your eagle-eyed elf is more likely to fail whenever the dwarf is present because they wear heavy armour and are a fighter and have terrible perception, apparently. Anyway, the point is, as a group test, you're more likely to fail because weaker members of the group than if you were doing something by yourself. So that's not really a good mechanism either. So let's ask a more important question. Why are we even making a perception test to find this? Because, as I already mentioned, if I need a bottle opener, I'm going to find something, even if it's just a windowsill that I can do the whole thing to, bash it, or, a clipper lighter can be used to... I will find a way of opening that bottle. Will always do it, if given sufficient time. Now, you could argue that if I need to find a bottle opener before I get to work, then maybe under these situations, it might be okay to make an investigation check. Can I hunt this thing out? Can I quiz Jason as to when he last opened a bottle of beer? What did he do with the bottle opener? Actually, in our house, there's no need. There are many bottle openers. But the point is, there's no purpose for a GM to ask for a perception test in almost all cases, and yet we continually do it because it's a role-playing game. That's what we do when we want to see something. Is this thing that the player might notice important to the plot? That's the question I want to know. Because if it is, and I've been to a location and I have searched that location, and there's something important to the plot at that location that I needed to search for to find, I would argue I should have bloody well found it. I went there, I did the thing, I should get the clue. Don't hide that behind a perception test. What would happen if we all failed the perception test? Well, we wouldn't find the clue. So your amazing plot of awesomeness is derailed by a random dice roll, which, frankly, given we needed to find it, shouldn't have been asked for. So, what if it's not an important thing? What if it's a magical sword? I have a sword to hand. No, I've got a staff. Right, let's say I'm hunting the room, and I don't know there's a magical staff there. Do I happen to spot one? So what should a GM do in this situation? Well, firstly, if the characters are searching the room, why isn't the magical staff being held by somebody who can use it against the players? That's my first question. My next question is, okay, so there's some magical trinket in here that the characters might find. In this case, it's a bloody staff. I'm going to spot it. Now, what if there is some small... Oops, just making more random banging noises. What if there's some small magical artifact hidden in this room that I may or may not find? I might not realise its value when I look at it. Let's switch camera. And I'm hunting around, and there's a chance I'll spot this here. Oops, knocking things off. This here money box. Inside there's presumably money, and I'm making rattling sounds on camera now. Yep, it's foreign money. That's why it's still in there, because I can't spend it. Anyway, should that be hidden behind a random chance? Well, did I search the room or didn't I? But some characters are more thorough at searching than others. No, they're not. Because when you're missing your car keys, you will always find your car keys, eventually. Now, if you're going to put a time pressure on, fine, make a roll. If there's no time pressure, if there's no outside influence that determines whether I succeed now or in 5 minutes' time, then I can succeed in 5 minutes. It doesn't matter, I'm going to find the thing. I hate perception tests because they don't add anything. And I'll tell you how bad they are. One of my earliest videos actually covered this story already, but it was several years ago, and I feel it's time to remind everyone of this story again. It's an important one. I was playing a game once where I was playing a rogue, and it was a first edition game, so first edition D&D. In first edition D&D, rogue gets a listen skill, okay? It's just something they have. It's an ability that character class has that other classes don't even get the skill. And that listen skill is meant to represent the super amazing abilities of the rogue to hear things that other characters wouldn't have a chance of hearing. So I went up to a door and I listened at the door. "Do I hear anything, GM?" The GM said, "Roll your listen skill." So I did, and I critically fumbled it. I heard nothing. In fact, for the rest of the scene, I may as well have had wax in my ears. I had fumbled so badly that I needed to be punished as a player for several more turns. Meanwhile, the warrior, with no skill whatsoever, goes up to the door and says, "Can I listen?" And the reason the warrior did that on this particular door was because they knew I failed, so that was hella metagaming. But anyway, the GM said, "Yes, you can hear a conversation the other side." I says, "Well, how come I couldn't hear that?" And the GM said, "You critically fumbled your roll." I'm like, he didn't need to make a roll. And yet he could hear. So why did I need to make a roll to hear it? "Ah, but you critically failed." Yes, but a roll wasn't necessary to hear the conversation on the other side. They're having a brazen conversation with raised voices. Why did I have to make a listen check? This is my problem with perception tests. Most of the time, whenever they occur, 99 times in 100, you should just tell people what they see. Why would they not be able to find the roll of shit tickets on my desk? It's clearly right there, just sat on my desk in case I sneeze. You know, why would I not be able to find my phone? Well, because it's in my handbag. That happens quite often, but I will always find it in the end. Usually after the battery dies, occasionally after dialing it from another phone. The point is, I'll always find it. Why do we continue to ask for perception tests? Answers in the comments. Tell me a reason that you would give a perception. There are some. I know there are some. I'm not saying I would remove the skill from the game. I'm just saying, as a GM, I would never ask my players to make a perception test. There was a time, don't get me wrong, I was an old school gamer once, but can somebody please tell me, when is it okay for a GM to ask the players to make a perception test? And particularly in 5e, where a perception test is about the active act of looking. But really any system, you know, a corporation here with its perception and observation stuff, why is that necessary? You know, when might I use perception plus observation in corporation? You walk into a room, there's a credit stick on the side. Do you see that credit stick? You know, can you swipe those credits? What if they're in the bloody room and I'm not being chased or hunted or shot at? Why would I not? You know, when I give a description of a scene for players when they enter a location, if I've missed a detail out, that's my negligence as a GM. You know, if I'm describing a scene and its appearance is part of the ambience and stuff of the scene, it's my job to describe what they have. Sometimes I might, you know, talk about the musty smell, or I might give a little bit of history to a location by putting a crack in the wall. And I might even, on some occasions, describe how that crack was possibly caused. Might have to, because there might be a dwarf making stone masonry tests, whatever. But the point is, you know what's in the room when you walk into it, because you can look. Unless our characters are blind, deaf, and can't smell anything, then why would they need to make a perception test when they're not actively searching? I mean, you notice a funny smell in the room, I'll give you that for nothing. I'll ask for a test if you want to say, that's chlorine gas. But I probably wouldn't do perception. I'd do a mix of chemistry and alchemy, I suppose, in D&D's case. If it was corporation, there must be some chemistry related thing on here. That's a medicine, that's close enough. Medicine plus perception, there you go. I'd ask for that. But, you know, that's the player is then saying, I want to, can I work out what this thing is? As a GM, I'm not going to ask the players to observe, you know, to make a roll. That's my rant. I feel better now. God, that one's been building a while, because it happens in almost every game of play, and it's like, why? There's no purpose. If it's important to the plot, I should see it. If I'm not under pressure, I should see it. Why, as a player, am I? Why? Yeah, anyway, that's my rant for today. Please come to the YouTube channel and subscribe and stuff, and watch more videos. Some of them have got really good content. Occasionally I rant. That's all. If I could find the stop recording button, I'd stop talking. Aha! Bye!